Hey, Blue Crew. I'm your host, Blue Baby. We're about to have the conversation that everyone thinks about, but not everybody talk about. Have you ever looked at life and thought that there has to be more to life than this? This cannot be living. I know I have. And honestly, that question is a big part of why I'm here. Hey, Blue Crew. Welcome to the very first episode of Blu Mindz Podcast. Boy, am I super excited. I'm your host, Blue Baby, and before we get started, I want to take the time to send my thank yous out to you for spending this time with me. Whether you're driving, cleaning, getting ready for work, or just simply taking a moment for yourself, as we all should, I'm truly grateful that you're here. If you've ever felt stuck, overlooked, underestimated, or like you were made for something more, this podcast is for you. I've had this podcast on my heart for a couple of years now, and I kept telling myself that I needed a perfect timing to start. But here's what I finally had to accept. The perfect moment rarely comes. Sometimes you simply have to start. And before I go any further, I have to say this. I didn't get here by myself. There's been people in my life who believed in me, even when I questioned myself. Some of the biggest supporters have been my children. They encouraged me, they reminded me of my gifts, my purpose, and believed in me on days when I needed that extra push. I also create this podcast as a way to stay connected to my children through honest conversations that they can return to one day. So this podcast may be my voice, but it's also part of my legacy. It's something I hope not only inspire you, that inspire others, but also blesses my children for years to come. And maybe that's the lesson for all of us. Sometimes the things we're called to do don't start when everything feels ready. They start when we're willing. And yes, I have butterflies right now. I'm super nervous. This moment is exciting, personal, and honestly, I'm experiencing all types of emotions. But this is long overdue because this podcast isn't just about conversations. It's about growth. Perspective. It's about purpose. So before I tell you where Blu Mindz is going, let me take you back to where I started. My beginning. When I think about where I come from, one memory always comes back to me. Watching my mother raise 3 girls on a fixed income. As a child, I didn't understand the sacrifices, the stress, or the weight that she carried every single day. Because, as kids, we expect the lights to come on. We're not thinking about how much the light bill is, how high it is, or if I can even pay it, if I have to get the money up. We just don't expect to be in the dark. We also expect food to be on the table. And we expect someone to make these things happen every single day. It wasn't until I became a mother myself when I truly understood what my mother had done for all of us, my sisters and I. Now that I look back, I can just see how much strength, faith, and sacrifice that it took. Did we have everything that we wanted? No, but we definitely had what we needed. And for that, I'll always be grateful. Those early years shaped how I saw the world, and they taught me lessons that I still carry within me today. Sometimes gratitude begins when we finally understand what someone else survived to help us become. Growing up in the projects taught me lessons no classroom ever could. I saw addiction, poverty, struggle, and dreams abandoned before they even had a chance to grow, and that's the sad truth. And I don't say that with judgment, I say it with compassion, because sometimes your environment can make you feel like this is all life has to offer. But even as a little girl, I remember thinking that there has to be more than this. Have you ever felt that way? Like something deep down inside kept whispering that you were made for something more. For a while, that feeling sat deep within my heart. And then I became a mother, and suddenly that whisper became a responsibility. Your beginning may explain part of your story. It does not have the authority to write your ending. When I became a mother, life was no longer just about me. And I started asking myself some real questions here. Like, what kind of future do I want for my children? What kind of example do I want to set? What kind of life do I want them to believe is possible? I didn't even want them to believe that their environment determined their future, because it doesn't. I wanted them to have really clear vision. I wanted them to see opportunity, to see hope, and proof that where you start doesn't have to determine where you finish. And that's when I learned one of the greatest lessons of my life. Your environment may influence you, but it doesn't have to define you. And once I truly believed that, I knew I couldn't stay where I was and expect a different future. So eventually, I made one of the biggest decisions of my life. And that's starting over. In 2008, I packed my children and my life and went to Raleigh, North Carolina. I was looking for better opportunities, room to grow, a fresh start, and honestly, a different environment. And let me tell you, starting over isn't difficult because of the packing of the boxes. It's hard because of the uncertainty. It's wondering if you're making the right decisions. It's taking a leap and praying that you'll land somewhere that's better than where you are. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't even have everything figured out, but I had to try, because sometimes staying where you are can be scarier than taking that risk itself. So looking back now, moving to Raleigh wasn't just a move, it was a declaration. A declaration I believe there was more available to me. So maybe you're listening right now and you're standing at the edge of something new. You're scared, unsure, and waiting until you have all the answers. If that's you, I want to encourage you that sometimes God doesn't show us the entire staircase. He simply asks us to take the next step. A new chapter rarely feels safe in the beginning, but movement creates possibilities that stand still cannot. Now let me talk about my father for a moment. My father and I, we stay connected. We share moments. But if I'm being honest, we never had that father-daughter relationship I wish we had. And when he passed away, one of the biggest regrets was realizing that I never truly got to know him. I knew pieces of him and parts of his story, but not all of him. And despite all of that, I love him because he was my father. When I lost him, it taught me something I still think about to this day. Relationships aren't always perfect. Sometimes love and disappointment can exist in the very same place. Sometimes healing means accepting what was instead of staying stuck on what wasn't. And honestly, that lesson helped shape the foundation of Blu Mindz, because Blu Mindz isn't about judging people. It's about truly understanding people to the core. Long before podcasting was on my mind, music was one of my greatest passions. I sang in a gospel group that traveled to different churches, and later I wrote R&B music and dreamed of becoming a singer. Now, my younger self thought I'd move to California, become a famous singer, and walk the red carpet. But we all know that didn't happen. I mean, I'm here. I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina. But my point is that music taught me confidence, expression, and most importantly, that my voice mattered. And so does yours. Years later, I realized that my voice wasn't meant to stay inside of a song. Maybe, just maybe, it was meant to start conversations. But if there's one thing that life has taught me, it's that purpose doesn't protect you from struggle. I've dealt with setbacks, difficult relationships, burnout, self-doubt, and the frustration of entrepreneurship when things didn't happen as fast as I hoped. There were nights that I cried, moments I questioned myself, and times I wondered if I was chasing something that would never happen. There were moments I felt exhausted and I just wanted to give up. I just couldn't do it anymore. I was so tired. But every setback taught me resilience. Every closed door taught me patience. And every disappointment taught me to trust the process. I'm still here, still learning and still growing. Because if I quit, that's the only way I truly lose. But if I keep going, there's still possibility. You get that? Think about that for a moment. Now, a few things about Blue Baby. If I had to describe myself with one word, it would be relentless. Honestly, I don't know what giving up looks like. Honestly. If I say I'm going to do something, it's going to get done. I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to always keep pushing, and I'm going to figure it out because quitting has never been an option for me. And I'm passionate about that. There have been times I didn't know how something would happen or I didn't have all the answers. But I've learned that sometimes it's just me and God working things out one step at a time. And when I feel like He's placed something on my heart, I owe that to myself to keep going. I owe it to myself. I owe it to my children and my purpose to keep going. Because I believe that persistence and faith can take you places that fear never will. My biggest pet peeve? It's when people keep complaining about where they are, but won't take even one step towards changing it. I mean, we all need time to heal. We all need grace. We all need support. But I believe growth requires action. I believe if you want something different, you have to be willing to do something different. So why Blue Mindz? Blue has always been my favorite color, of course, but over time, I've realized that blue means different things to different people. When I think of blue, I think of peace, healing, wisdom, faith, calm after the storm, hope, and renewal. But for someone else, blue might represent sadness, loneliness, worry, uncertainty, fear, or even depression. And that's the part that really caught my attention. It fascinates me. The color itself never changes, but the perspective does. Because our experiences are different. We don't all see life the same way. Two people can go through the exact same situation and walk away with completely different perspectives. One person sees pain, while another person sees purpose. One person sees a setback, while another person sees a lesson. One person sees an ending, while another person sees a new beginning. And that's why I chose the name Blu Mindz, because this podcast is really about perspective. It's about understanding that we all think differently. We process things differently. We heal differently and view life differently. I'm not here to tell you how to think. I'm here to encourage you to think, grow, heal, and maybe look at life from a different angle. And maybe even see something that you've never seen before. Because sometimes life doesn't change overnight. Sometimes our perspective changes first. And that shift changes everything. That's the heart of Blu Mindz. And behind every perspective, there's a story. My faith has carried me through some difficult seasons. It helped strengthen my mind and given me hope when I didn't feel sure about what was next. Faith helped me to endure situations I never thought I'd even make it through. Faith doesn't mean that life becomes easy. It simply means that you have something to stand on when life gets difficult. And that's really special. Now, who is this podcast for? This podcast is for a person trying to rebuild, the one who feels stuck, that dreamer, the person healing from a disappointment, the entrepreneur, and the parent who's just simply doing the best that they can. And it's for anyone who wants real conversation that make us think, grow, and see life differently. So the mission of Blu Mindz is simple: to have honest conversation that inspire growth, challenge perspectives, and remind people that their story still matters. My hope is that every episode leaves you with a little more hope, a clearer perspective, and one more reason to keep going. So if you've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, discouraged, or stuck, let me remind you, this is not the end of your story. It might be the start of something new, of your new chapter, your next chapter. But I challenge you to keep going, keep growing, and keep showing up for the life you know you were created to live. Because what's challenging you today could be building the strength, wisdom, and confidence you'll need for what's coming next. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. You're officially part of the Blue Crew, a community that believes in growth, resilience, fresh perspective, and big purpose. I'm excited for what we're going to build, learn, and grow through together. If this episode lifted you, encouraged you, or reminded you that you're not alone, share it with somebody who needs that same reminder, and follow the podcast for more honest, uplifting conversation from Blu Mindz. And next episode, we're going even deeper, surviving what was meant to break you. Until next time, keep your head up and your heart open. Stay open-minded, stay encouraged, keep growing, and be bold about your dreams, your healing, and your purpose. Because no matter where you are right now, remember this, your story is still unfolding. I'm Blue Baby, and this is Blu Mindz Podcast. See you next time, Blue Crew.